Here we go.
All
All right.
right.
This is Dr. Jantz from the Alternative Healthcare Center, and we are live, and we are here tonight with Lisa Mislevy, registered dietitian, and she has a Master's of Science, and she has an RD degree. And we're just going to wait a couple minutes for people to jump on. So we're just going to look at the screen for a second.
Okay.
Unless you have a good joke, you can tell.
No, I can just pose. Give you my best.
And then we're going to repeat this a couple times, but you've got a couple or a link, right, of the couple handouts that you've got?
Correct. Yep. We'll post that at the end of the show.
So what's the actual name on the handouts you've got?
Okay. One of them is called Sugar Suppresses Immunity.
Okay.
And that one is going to talk about why you don't want to eat sugar. It's a quick summary. It's got a quick list of the most common names sugar hides under, and you'll recognize most of them, the foods it's in, and then what you would do instead. Other foods you could eat that would be safer foods. Now, no one is perfect, of course, but these are just good lists. And then the other handout is called the 14-Day Simple Sugar Detox. And it's just a few rules to follow for 2 weeks, and it's a fun challenge. See if you can do it.
Okay.
Sugar's a toughie.
Thank you. If anybody's on with us, let us know that you're on live. So we're going to get started momentarily here. So if you have jumped on, just let us know. Because we kind of said between 7:30 and 7:45. So basically, I just want to say hi to everybody. It's been a rough time with the pandemic and everything going on in the country, and it's been a bit stressful. And what happens just about everybody is when you get stressed out, you reach for carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is a timely topic because sugar is such a driving force in running your immune system down, and it can actually just totally blow up a good program that you're on, a good nutritional program. Because what we try to do at the clinic, or what we do is it's very designed nutrition that we do for specific organs, but often sugar is the menace that keeps breaking everything up. And we're going to go over some stuff tonight to help you have more knowledge on the sugar. And you always definitely have to have some alternatives. And I want to make sure, Lisa, that we definitely cover some alternative sweeteners too. We don't have to do that right this second, but it's an addiction. I used to be addicted pretty heavily to sugar, and it definitely can be cracked. It takes about 3 to 6 weeks. And once you get through that, as long as you can keep your diet relatively clean, you don't usually fall back to where you were before. So, Lisa, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you arrived with us and what you do.
I will. I'm happy to. Thanks for having me again. So it all started, I think I won't go back. This will be 2 minutes, less than that. But when I was 19, I was looking for a job. I looked in the phone book back in the day when they existed, and I found your office. And ever since then, I was lucky enough to come work for you and saw what you all did there. And it just changed my life and my path and what I did and what I studied. So since then, I went to a school and learned a lot about naturopathy. And then I went on and got my master's in dietetics. I did an internship in your office. I did hundreds of hours there and other places, and really just learned a lot of different modalities. So I specialize in nutrition now, but I have a big background with, I use homeopathy, essential oils, body work, all kinds of things. But what I really learned over the years is that nutrition was my love. I love, feeding people. I love cooking, and I see the magic that nutrition can bring to people, along with a good, well-rounded program. There's never one thing that fixes everything, but
Right.
Food is giant. So that's what really led me here now. So I call myself an integrative dietitian, but really there's a lot of words for that, right? Like alternative, holistic, functional, whatever you like. But the point is that we recognize, like Dr. Jantz and all the practitioners in his office, that the body as a whole, we have to acknowledge all the parts, and it's not just eat some healthy foods. It's bigger than that.
Right. And what we do at the clinic is we'll take a history of the patients and have them write down what they're eating and drinking and what that does for people. Because a lot of people, you say, well, how's your diet? Well, my diet's pretty good. I hardly eat anything, and I don't eat that much, sweets and sugar and stuff. And then when they write it down, obviously we can find hidden sugars, but we can find the obvious. And then the patient starts to actually confront what they're eating. Because, everybody has to, they really take a look. We have that happen not every patient, but almost every patient will say, wow, when I started writing it down, even though it's a pain in the butt to write it down, I started to see wow, I've got this and that in my diet. And I realized I forgot that I do this multiple times, and there's many slips that I have. So it's important, because you can't just, to get people well, this is my opinion, but you can't get them well just with nutritional supplements, and you can't get them well usually if they have a chronic condition,
right,
just diet.
Right.
But you marry those two together, then you can really get some magic going, because what we're doing is working on chronic, deep conditions. And Lisa, she's an awesome person too, and she's kind of coming as part of our staff. She's going to come and do some lectures on specific topics on nutrition in the clinic as soon as things get opened up again. But maybe, Lisa, we could cover a little bit on your handout there on sugar suppresses immunity. That's a good topic.
Yeah, I agree. It because that, like you said, it is an addiction, and what I find is it's probably the hardest one to break. People can, whine a little. I do too. Don't get me wrong. It hurts every time I have to give something up. But you can give up dairy, you can give up grains, and even some carbs in general. But sugar, it really, and there's tons of research, showing the actual effects it has on the body. So it's actually really hard to get rid of it. And I'm not saying no sugar. I'm not saying no carbs. I'm not even saying everyone needs to be on a ketogenic diet. That's a whole different topic. We won't talk about that now, but I don't want people to misunderstand me that, all carbs and sugar have to be gone. We're just talking tonight about the added sugars that are hiding in foods that you eat and that you might add unintentionally or intentionally. So the one handout.
That's a good example on your handout. It's a well-written handout, by the way.
Well, thanks.
Organized.
There's a list there. So the top of this handout, don't worry, you're going to get it. This top bit here is just going to give you a quick outline. I hope you find motivating about why you want to try giving up sugar, because it really is causing trouble. It really is feeding the bugs in your body. It really is their food source. So all of us are probably, and especially if you're already a patient of Dr. Jantz's or any of the doctors there, you've heard this talk, and you know that you might have something going on in your body, and that you want to limit their food supply so that you can help them die off, and help your supplements work better. So when you get this handout, read through these. But basically, sugar causes inflammation in the body, and it also feeds these bugs, these pathogens. And then it just makes everything work worse. Whatever you're genetically inclined towards, as far as breaking down, what if you're a person where your joints hurt, or you're a person that has gut problems, or, inflammation, autoimmune disease. Sugar just amplifies all of those bad reactions. It just makes it all worse. And people come back. This even shocked me when I first started talking about it and teaching it, is that people would come back saying the same things over and over. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking better, and my joints stopped hurting, and they weren't expecting that. The brain. You tell them, but until it actually improves, you're shocked that it could make a difference. So that's really motivating. So I encourage you just to try this for a couple weeks. So anyway, that's the top part. And then the second part in here is going to go through the different names of sugar. And I have on here things like honey and not corn syrup. Well, I have corn syrup, but maple syrup aren't necessarily, the worst things ever, but they qualify. They are a sugar. So maybe you put too much on your waffles and you can go with less or go without. I'm just trying to give you something to think about here. So
while you're on that, Lisa, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Sure.
While you're on that, why don't we cover some of the natural sugar substitutes that you could use in place, like stevia and
I encourage my patients to just, it's spending a little bit of money, but I think of the long-term benefit of this. So I encourage people to just try each one. Stevia is a great one. All of them have a little bit of a different aftertaste. So try them out. See what you hate the least, because I don't love any of them, but I also want some days to have my sugar feeling, because sometimes it hits you. I mean, honestly, when you lower your sugar a lot, you don't have the cravings anymore. So you're not fighting yourself, which is a relief I can't explain. But sometimes you want that little bit. So you can try stevia. There's tons of flavors and extracts, and even company to company makes a huge difference. So every now and then try them. If you have a friend using one, try theirs so you can see if you like it and not have to buy the whole package.
I just see my wife posted on here, I hate stevia, she says. Now I like stevia. It doesn't bother me, but it does have an aftertaste. I like the one from Cal, K-A-L, the organic.
Oh, I don't know that one. I haven't tried it.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much aftertaste. And the other thing, too, is you have to be careful with some of the stevias. They add like dextrose, like a corn sugar, to it. So you got to read your label and make sure you're just getting stevia. Otherwise, you're just adding more sugars into your system. But monk fruit, to me, I don't know what you feel about it, Lisa, but monk fruit doesn't seem to have the aftertaste, at least.
Yeah,
like,
I do. I alternate them because it's almost like your taste buds get used to it, or it changes from day to day for me personally. So I have the monk fruit, or lentenko, I think is how you pronounce that, but it goes under both names. You can look on Amazon for all of these, although now I'm starting to see them in regular stores. But monk fruit, I think, has the best, worst aftertaste. It still has a few grams of carbs in it, but again, this isn't the end of the world. And I'd rather you get away with that than have to go back to the donut fix. So I think that's fine. I like using erythritol. Seems to be the most tolerated sugar alcohol, but I would test it in small doses and a day where you're home from work, because if it doesn't sit well with you, you're going to be in the bathroom.
So some people do well with the sugar alcohols like xylitol, erythritol, maltitol. Other people, it's really rough on their gut. If you have a history of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, those sugar alcohols can be really rough on the body. And then other people, it doesn't bother them a bit. Like for me, I noticed with like xylitol and erythritol, it doesn't bother me. But I've had patients make the comment like, wow, that kind of cramped up my gut. I don't feel so good. And other people just do great at it.
Right. Yep. Totally agree with that. I think those are the alternatives. And if you really, really hate those alternatives and you've tried them all, then I just recommend using the real stuff, sugar in the raw, or honey, like unfiltered, unprocessed honey, like raw honey that is locally grown is ideal. Or even just some, grade A maple syrup in very small amounts.
Right.
Because some people, after you work with them, you put them on a great diet, they've had low sugar, they want a little something. They want a little muffin or a little cookie, and that's okay. If you've reached your goals in your health, whatever it is, it's not just weight loss. It's okay to have a little treat. I would just rather use the real stuff instead of trying to fool with Splenda and other things. So
that raw honey, you usually got to dig it out.
Yes, great point.
It's hard as a rock typically, because a lot of honey is very processed and it's just like liquid sugar. So you want the raw honey that has all the enzymes in it. So it's a healthy sugar. Right. And agave can be very processed too. Fruit juice, like she has on the list, fruit juice can, like drinking apple juice. I mean, really, when you look at this population in this country, including used to be myself, is carbohydrate addicts. So a lot of people think they're going on the healthy route when they're drinking like 2 glasses of apple juice, which is healthier than, Lucky Charms and, different types of sugar like, corn syrup and stuff, but it still throws your body out of sync and
That's
still
right.
feeds the bugs and can still inflame your body, because that's the buzzword in functional medicine now. All the alternative doctors pretty much agree that's how you get sick, is you cause inflammation in your body. And diet is a huge part of that. Stress is part of it. And, your diet and how you're handling work and family and stuff. And when you bring your inflammation down, the body kind of chills out, and then it can start to heal. Because some people come in and it's just like they're like a pinball machine. They're so inflamed that you try to give them stuff, and then they blow up on just normal food supplements. And you got to just get that tissue to calm down, because when you have inflammation, it leads to all the degenerative diseases like arthritis and cancer and cardiovascular disease, all these main killers that people have, where basically people are just come in there just taking drugs to regulate things, which have tons of side effects. You're not doing anything to actually nourish these organs and actually work on fixing your own body so it actually comes up to a new level. So Go ahead. I didn't mean to jump on what you were in the middle of, but some other things you wanted to cover on this sheet here, this one here.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Is there anything else you want to cover on this sheet?
Oh yeah, I do want to say this. Sugar is definitely hidden in a ton of foods. And like Dr. Jantz said earlier, people tend to feel like, yeah, I eat pretty well, I do okay, I don't get added sugar, until, like you said, you write it down. That's magic, is to have a little reality check. I say go to the grocery store next time and start turning things around if you don't already have the habit of doing that or looking for sugar in foods. Review the list and then look at the foods, and you'll see, look in your salad dressing. If you buy that, they all have sugar in it. Absolutely. Because it doesn't taste great without it unless you make it at home from scratch. But if you're buying it off the shelf, there's a ton of chemicals in there. So just look at that and you'll see added sugar.
What about like peanut butter, like just plain
right.
like peanut butter or almond butter?
Yes. I get infuriated with the hospitals I've worked at that they have peanut butter, but it's got hydrogenated fats and corn syrup added to it. So it's, it's no good. No, that's very frustrating. Yeah. So it's everywhere, and it's very easy to just pick a different one off the shelf. There's tons of peanut butters. There's tons of salad dressings. There's lots of competition now because the manufacturers are understanding what consumers want. Someone once said, and I forgot who it was, that we're voting with our dollars. Everywhere you spend $1, you're putting a little vote, and it's showing them, it's teaching them what to make you next time. So just start reading labels and just make little decisions every day that are a little bit better.
The thing that happens too, when you eat a lot of carbohydrates in this country, we're like the worst with our culture. You just beat the living crap out of your pancreas, and the pancreas gland it's under the left breast, underneath the rib cage, and it kind of runs at a horizontal angle, somewhat of a dip down, and it's got a head and a tail to the pancreas. And the pancreas does 2 main functions. It balances your blood sugar, and it helps you digest food. So your pancreas takes a beating, and when it gets weaker and weaker, eventually your blood sugar, you might have a low blood sugar where if you don't eat, it crashes, and then you eat carbs and it comes back up and you feel better and it crashes. This can go on for years, and you can start hitting the age of 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and all of a sudden your cells become resistant to insulin, which is what drives and gets the sugar inside the cells. And then you kind of are in the borderline between low sugar and then your high sugar. So it's called insulin resistance. And then that's when your blood sugar starts going up into the mid 90s. Some people even say lower than that, even like 90, 95, 100. You're creeping up to 105 on your glucose, 110, 115. And once you hit 126, you're considered a diabetic. A lot of people come in, it amazes me, their sugar's at 140 and they don't even know the fact, no one's even told them, like, you're a diabetic at 140, at 128. So the pancreas is the gland that just takes an absolute beating. And that's where you usually need supplements to level that out as you shift the diet. And then, metals getting, I just had a patient before I came home that had aluminum in their pancreas.
Wow.
Just from antiperspirants. That was the only source. Goes in the armpit and then down into the pancreas. And then you got these chemicals like Roundup, which are on all your vegetables and fruits that aren't organic.
Yeah.
And Roundup shows up on people all the time in their thyroid, in their brain, and their pancreas. And it's a pretty tough chemical in the body, and it's a chelator. Roundup grabs minerals out of the body, especially manganese, and it can throw off your pituitary and your thyroid. And anyway, I mean, was there some other comments that you had on the drinks, maybe on liquids? Did you want
to? I mean, really, just drink water. I mean, it's it's really just the safest thing. It's what the body requires, right? I mean, there's 3 things you can't live without: nutrition, air, and water. We just need water. And so, I know people who are addicted to other kinds of drinks, it's a challenge, but I know you can do it. There are some sparkling waters that don't have any bad additives. They're just flavored like LaCroix. I don't know a lot of the brands. I'm not into that. I'm more of a water person, but there's definitely safer alternatives that have flavor out there. But really, I mean, the biggest favor you can do to yourself is just hydrate with water.
Yeah, and those waters that you mentioned, there's a lot of people who love the fizz.
Yeah.
It just satisfies them, so they'll buy like LaCroix and some of these other waters that are just have a little hint of watermelon or a hint of lemon. And a lot of times that can help them graduate getting off of pop.
I agree. I've had to give the advice, like when I work in the hospital too, on the floor. So I work with the public not seeking to work with an integrative person. So it can be a little challenging, but, they're a new diabetic, like you said. They're shocked, they had no idea, and then they're drinking tons of juice and soda. So sometimes my literal advice could just be, could we just have, 1 liter today of Coke, or just don't even think about the food and just give up all the sweetened beverages, and then you'll see your blood sugars will come down. I mean, it depends on where you're at, right, and what we have to work with, but.
Yeah, Lisa, that's what we run into all the time with the patients. Think, well, it's a liquid. It's like say it's a Pepsi or Coke or Vernors or whatever. They think, well, that's not going to put weight on me. It's just like having a bowl of sugar or eating cake, because there's 12 to 14 teaspoons of sugar in a pot.
Right, and absolutely less than cake, because there's no fiber, right? There's nothing to slow it down from absorbing. So it's worse.
Right, and they're hooking blood sugar. Remember I went through the low blood sugar and the insulin resistance and then diabetes. These issues, when people especially get up to the insulin resistance and into a diabetic state or almost a diabetic state, they're hooking Alzheimer's with that, brain dysfunction.
Right.
Even people who have trouble with this virus that's the COVID-19. You talk to people in the emergency room, a lot of them will tell you that, hey, a lot of it is insulin resistance. Those are the patients have that was called comorbidity, where they have another health issue along with getting the virus, and then bam, they have some major health issues with their lungs and cardiovascular and what have you. So
exactly,
it's a big thing, for your sugar. It's one of the killers.
Yep. And that's what I'm telling people is if you have those comorbidities, now's the time to start cutting back on sugar. If you don't have those comorbidities, now's the time to start cutting back on sugar too, because it's never good. But I mean, it's really the first step in getting you going in the right way.
A lot of people forget too. And I forget to even tell the patients, and I'm sure Dr. Shell and Dr. Jeff, maybe they do the same thing, is that your sugar, you can drive your sugar down by simply walking.
Right, yeah.
You can drive your sugar into a much better range just by exercise. It's a good uptake of the sugar. And it's a very, very key thing is to have some exercise. Even if it's just walking.
Yes.
The other thing too, Lisa, I think this is really important because a lot of people might be out there, patients, friends, people we don't know. They might say, yeah, I know, not supposed to eat the sugar and I'm supposed to do this and that. But I think what it boils down to for most people is, can they handle their cravings enough to get from point A to B? Because if you crave and you're hungry, you're not going to make it.
Right.
I would get, so why don't you give us a couple tips on the cravings?
Yes. Gosh, you're reading my mind. So both handouts have a little bit of that information in it. So you'll see it when you get it. But I'll tell you, absolutely, I'm not expecting anyone to just, mentally fight themselves. I tell people willpower is like a rubber band, right? And it only stretches so far, and eventually it's going to snap back and hit you in the rear. So you have to do it the right way. And in my experience, the right way, the better way would be making sure you have the right things in your diet while you take out the sugar. So make sure every meal you eat has some healthy fats included. So that's going to be, grass-fed butter, olive oil, coconut oil, even olives, nuts and seeds, grass-fed red meat, or your pasture-raised eggs. I'm trying to think here and talk at the same time, but those are all the healthier sources of fat. So not only is that way better for your cardiovascular system when they come from high quality sources, like I mentioned, but they keep you full. Fat is the satiety macronutrient, so it gives you that sense of fullness. So you can't take away sugar and have nothing to put in its place. So you're going to have to put a little more fat and maybe adequate protein if you're not having enough protein.
One of the things I do for a snack, and I know hopefully my assistants aren't watching this. Well, actually, Cindy is on. She'll laugh. But I take coconut butter, which is actually really tasty, and I put the coconut butter in like almond butter or sunflower seed butter.
Yep.
And I take a knife, and it's my jar, and I just mix it up. And if I'm in the mood, I'll throw some cinnamon in there on top of it. I might even throw a dash of stevia if I want to sweeten it up. And that fat is very satiating because you got to find some good healthy snacks that you like. And again, I'm just going back to the fact you got to handle the cravings, and fat is the key thing. And if you eat good fats, people, there's been a lot of false data out there for many, many years, and it still circulates, fat makes you fat. Typically, fat does not make you fat, and good fats actually prevent cancer and inflammation and heart disease, like she mentioned, coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil that to heat your foods up with. So those are key things. And by the way, Cindy said she doesn't like the monk fruit or the stevia. She'd rather go without. Now,
I agree. I mean, I feel that way too. So I like I said, I get bummed out thinking about making a dessert with those things in it. But I don't know. I change my mind all the time, I guess, too. So sometimes I want it, but I don't want the sugar because I know what will happen. Being a former addict myself, so I either go without or have a piece of fruit and some nuts, or I just make the real thing. And make sure that I put enough fat in it. Like if you're going to have a dessert, make sure there's some fat with it so that it absorbs slower, and some fiber too would be ideal. And you get your little bit of a fix, but you can't overdo it.
And one problem that I see with what we just recommended, that I just see in the trenches with the patients, sometimes you'll run into the patient who's like very willing, is all on board to do the nut butters and all the good fats, and then they get sick because they have a bad gallbladder.
Oh, right.
So sometimes we have to actually nutritionally work with the gallbladder, things like AF beta food and choline. One thing I'll mention, this is important actually, some people, they don't have a gallbladder, so they're lacking bile salts because your gallbladder, it just collects bile and bile salts, which helps like emulsify or break down your fats. So people who don't have a gallbladder, often their cravings can get even more out of control. And we use a product called Colacol, which is from Standard Process. It's bile salts, and that helps emulsify the fats. And if you don't have a gallbladder, you usually have to take some Cholacol the rest of your life. And the other thing with or without a gallbladder, some people, when their gallbladder is bad, let's say that's in, they actually get like tremendous cravings, like just they eat and then they're hungry again, like immediately. And it's not always, their blood sugar can drop, but it can be from the gallbladder where you would need to use like Cholacol to help that along. So that's just one thing we see, in the practice, as far
That's
as
interesting. I never put those two together, the cravings and the lack of a gallbladder. I'll have to watch out for that.
Or even having a gallbladder where it's all sludged up and not working.
Okay.
You get pain right under the right side, underneath your rib cage.
Yep.
We covered in one of the videos on liver and gallbladder a couple videos back. That's up on our YouTube from the Alternative Healthcare Center if you want to watch that. But we cover the liver and the gallbladder. If you don't mind, Lisa, I'm just going to mention a couple things about supplements that help with cravings, because I'm all about the cravings, as you can see tonight. Because if we just get this across and help you handle this part, it's going to be a different ball game for you. So one product, I don't know if you guys can see, if I bring this up in front of the camera. This is inositol. Let me just get, I don't know where the camera is. There we go. So inositol, you can chew that, and it actually tastes good. It's great for kids. And you can do that when you have sugar cravings. You can chew 2-3 up, and you can do that multiple times a day because it balances your blood sugar. Also, Cataplex B from Standard Process is very helpful. And if you're really an addict and you're really struggling and nothing else is working, there's a product called Gymnina. That's an herb. And you can actually suck on the tablets, and it anesthetizes or numbs your sugar taste buds so that if you eat sugar, you don't even taste it. It doesn't taste good. Now, Gymnina doesn't taste that good. It's kind of nasty, but it does anesthetize or numb your sugar taste buds, and it helps balance your sugar. We use Gymnina more when you're starting to go insulin resistant and high blood sugar. Zinc, very helpful to help balance your pancreas out. Zinc is very helpful with the COVID virus. It helps drive, when you get the zinc across the cell membrane, it helps the kind of dismantle the virus in a nutritional way. Another product is Diaplex that we use from Standard Process. I have to aim that camera so small. There we go. There. Diaplex is very helpful for blood sugar, especially when it's tending high. Whole food fiber from Standard Process and BioFiber Complete. Why don't you comment on what fiber does for the blood sugar and the cravings?
Well, I think you can maybe think of it as like a sponge. When you're eating it mixed with any other foods, proteins or sugars, it just slows the absorption. If you think of your small intestines as having cells that absorb the food or the nutrition from the food after you break it down, fiber just kind of slows the whole situation down, because it's, think of your oatmeal, right? When you make it, it gets puffy and kind of sludgy in a good way. That will just slow everything from getting into your bloodstream too fast, which slows that rise in blood sugar so that you don't crash later. So it's really beneficial. If you had a blood glucose monitor, you could see that. I really want one. I'm not diabetic, but I think it would be fun to see how different foods affect me, and exercise and stress or getting sick. All these things affect your blood sugar. It's very dynamic and complicated, but you can make a big difference with these supplements and food.
And there's a lot of other things that we test on the pancreas. One other thing that helps some people with sugar cravings is magnesium. Just taking, a lot of people, especially women, are deficient, men too, in magnesium, because it does about 300 different functions in your body. And people are low on that, and then they can get tight bowels, they can get stressed out, it can affect the rhythm of your heart, your bowel movements, etc. So, it's a key mineral that the body has to have, but that can help with cravings too.
Yep, agreed.
Lisa, was there anything else that you wanted to go over in the 14-day detox maybe, or did you?
Yep, that's the next one I wanted to bring up here. And it's funny that we talked about people denying what they eat. The first quote on top is, but I don't eat any sugar, says everyone. Because we all want to think so well of ourselves, and you're all great. I'm great. But sugar's just tough. And we learned it from childhood, likely, if you grew up in the typical home. It's just ingrained. It's everywhere. It's at Old Navy. You go to buy clothes and there's sugar there in the aisle. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's almost unavoidable. So don't feel bad. Just move forward from today. That's all you need to do. Okay, so the 14-day sugar detox, like I said, I keep things really simple. So it's just 3 rules, 3 things that you need to do. Drink plenty of water. I tell you how much. Make your meals from scratch using whole food. That's really the best human diet you could ever eat, no matter what your philosophy is, if you're vegetarian or if you're paleo or whatever the name is, it doesn't matter. All the food you eat should come from whole foods. They should look like where they grew. And then no sugar. That's it. Just those 3 things. Eat real, drink enough water, and just avoid the added sugars.
Well, that's awesome. So Jackie's on, Cindy's jumped on, Marianne jumped on, Teresa's jumped on. So there's others. Do you have any questions? The Hansels have jumped on. Do you guys have any questions for Lisa or for me? Because questions a lot of times bring up things that other people want to ask or thinking about. So if you can type that into the comments section, and we'll definitely go and answer any questions you have about the diets or the cravings. Or Cindy said, she's my assistant. She said, I do love the peanut butter mixed with nut butter and cinnamon is delish. Must be cold in the fridge. So she does a kind of a similar thing that I do with the good fats. Because again, you definitely do not want to starve.
No,
it won't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It never works for long anyway. But those are called fat bombs. Although don't Google too many, because then they start getting very interesting looking and sounding, and then you veer off into the wrong road. When you have the chocolate chip cheesecake fat bomb, that's probably not the one that we mean for you to eat. But yes, I love adding the coconut oil with the nut butter, and then like you said, cinnamon or vanilla and cinnamon. I was trying to copy an RX packet, one of those packets, but they're like $1.20 each, which really chaps my rear end. I hate paying all that. I could make it myself. So you can just copy those, and make your own. It's simple ingredients.
So Lisa, I got a question from Joyce.
Sure.
She said, can I give myself a single treat, a zucchini muffin with 10 grams of sugar? I would eat perfectly otherwise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, if you didn't hear me. If you're winning at your diet most of the day, almost every day, then absolutely you can have that. Sometimes I see people take it too far and they've lost too much weight. And not that this is just about weight, but, they're on the quest of health and they get so into it. And I appreciate that, because it's hard. But I don't want people suffering, and I don't want people, getting too far underweight if you're prone to losing weight. So yeah, that's absolutely fine.
One of the things you guys can do too, I think I've mentioned this at other seminars, when we've done the YouTube or the Facebook Lives, you can get some pH strips from the clinic, and then you do your first morning urine, and you want your body to be alkaline on the urine. And what happens with too much protein, obviously you have to have protein, you have to absorb protein to be healthy, but too much protein and sugar, they actually cause acidity. And when you get the acidity, which we went through, it causes inflammation. So as your inflammation goes down, your body gets more alkaline, the paper starts to turn more green. So if you want those, we've got those at the clinic too, and there's a little instruction thing where you can check your morning pH for like a week, because one day is not sufficient. You want to do multiple days, even if you miss a day. Just get like 5, 6, 7 days, and you can see what your average pH is. Mm-hmm. When you move yourself towards alkalinity, I don't care if you have cancer or you've got an endocrine problem or you're all stressed out and depressed, or have a lot of anxiety and can't sleep and insomnia, as you get the body more alkaline, the body starts to heal. So that's what this is all about, is to take your body and heal it. Jackie says she's meeting with Lisa next week. So Lisa does do some one-on-one, because some people need a lot of, more help. And I can understand that totally. That's what these handouts are for too. We've gotten all our handouts, and then you're developing another one, right? You're in, kind of in the middle of, which one are you doing? Another keto one, or?
Yep. I'm working on the keto, so that should be done in the next month. So you'll have that in your office.
Yeah. So we'll have that available to you guys. I think we covered, I don't see any other questions, so I think we'll end off here, unless you had something that you wanted to add, Lisa.
Oh, I thought of something and then I forgot it. And I did not have sugar today. That was a genuine brain fart there. No, I just, this isn't meant to, oh, that's what it was. This isn't meant to torture people, because I know sometimes after I explain to someone during an appointment what we need to do to get to, reach their goals, sometimes I feel bad, like, oh, this is like torture for someone who's never heard of any of this. But what I ask is just try it. That's why I did a 14-day sugar detox. Just try it for anybody can do anything for a week or 2 weeks. And that usually makes it less overwhelming. And then, the way you feel after, that will tell you if it was worth doing or not. And nobody's ever said, I felt nothing, by the way. Let me just spoil that for you. But find out for yourself how much better you can feel. Don't just take it from us.
Didn't realize too, carbohydrate addiction is an addiction. So I've got Mary Ann's asking, can we consume too much sugar from eating too much fruit?
Oh, yes, definitely. I've seen people, oh gosh, there was one patient, I saw his triglycerides were like 3,000. It was some crazy high number. And he admitted to being a complete fruit addict. He was totally fit. He was very muscular. So you wouldn't know that looking at him. And he was like 30 years old. So it was very shocking to see his labs. But it was the fruit, he also may not process it well. He may have had some other underlying liver issues, but yes, definitely fruit is not free. Right.
And when you drink fruit juice, you're pretty much back in the sugar pop range almost, as far as sugar.
Right.
And if you crave fruit or any carbohydrate and it's just not cracking and it's not moving, you usually have an underlying yeast or fungus problem or some type of pathogen that, we don't treat infection, but we treat the immune system so your body can handle that. Funguses love to feed on sugar. I was told many years ago that this guy took a drop of blood and he put it under a microscope, and they were just, watching all the different, there was some yeast in the person's blood and they could see it in the blood. And then the guy ate a cube of sugar and they took another prick of blood 5 minutes later, and the amount of fungus and yeast that was in that blood, it was just like thousands of times more just from one drop of blood. So it's a very fast reaction, like throwing gas on a fire. And that's why it cranks your sugar way up, and then your body will compensates and it goes down. So again, it's an addiction. Jackie asked, any recommendations to reduce nighttime cravings or ideas for healthy snacks? And that's when I crave carbs the most too, is that in the evening. I think it's because I'm just not as busy sometimes. I might maybe sitting down, I'm talking to my wife, or we're going over some stuff. So what have you got for that, Lisa, to nighttime cravings?
So when you balance out your whole day and lower carbohydrates in general, those do reduce. If they don't completely go away, I recommend, this may not be the best advice, but it's what works for me and my husband, because our bedroom is upstairs and we get, kind of snacky when we're relaxing for that 1 hour together. And I actually keep nuts in my drawers. It's, they probably should be in the kitchen, but honestly, if I go to the kitchen, I might make up something I shouldn't. So
they're not under your mattress, are they?
No, they're.
I'll check.
Yeah. So honestly, I just find if I just do a few macadamia nuts, those are really fatty and really low in carbs. They're very satisfying. Target now has a salt and pepper macadamia nut. You can season them yourself because they get old. Nuts get old after years and years of eating nuts. But yeah, I think nuts are great. Or if you can tolerate dairy, a piece of cheese. Get your favorite stinky cheese and enjoy it at night. That you won't want sugar after that. So those are, or some olives. Get some fancy stuffed olives with like a red pepper, or if you can handle the goat cheese or blue cheese. You only can eat a couple, and then you feel satisfied.
Here's one thing I'll add before we end off here. A lot of you that are going to watch this or have kids or grandkids, and you suddenly notice that these kids, they turned into teenagers, and they're not so friendly. They get a little bitchy and cranky and hard to deal with. And one of the main things that happens with these kids is they eat so many carbohydrates. They get their license, they start driving, and they just go to Pizza Hut and McDonald's, and they drink Coke, and they just amazing the amount of carbohydrates. I mean, I fight with my youngest daughter on this all the time. Yeah. And it's just kind of the culture. But when your blood sugar, when you eat all this crap, the sugary crap, when you're a teenager, when you're younger, 20s, teens, 30s, your sugar spikes, but then your body overreacts and shoots your sugar down. So you're what's called hypoglycemic or low blood sugar. And when you have low blood sugar, you're slow thinking, you're very cranky, you're very irritable, your periods can be rougher, you can have brain fog and be forgetful, like someone just told you something and you can't remember it, or you forgot to take the garbage out, or you can just be bitchy. Being blunt, I've seen some of the crankiest people are the teenagers because of the diet that they eat. And sometimes you have to give them like Cataplex B, like every hour for a few days, just to, even though it's a water soluble vitamin, you have to give it to them every hour, and maybe some zinc, because people drive the zinc out of their body and the B vitamins out of their body. And when you're low on zinc, zinc is usually a big part of any eating disorder, by the way, which isn't really this talk, but anorexia, bulimia, etc., often is a severe zinc deficiency. So a lot of these kids, they're not happy and they're grouchy. A lot of it's just because of their blood sugar. And then they get up in the morning and they eat breakfast cereal loaded with sugar and take off to school and try to study. And you guys know what the fix is, right? The medical fix?
What is it?
Ritalin.
Oh, yeah.
Vyvanse, psychostimulants, which cause brain damage, and you get addicted to them, and they cause, like I said, they cause brain damage. There's these stimulants damage the brain, and it can be a longer road back. And that's obviously, you're not fixing things. You're usually making the kid worse when you put them on these. The kid usually settles down and sit there, but now you've numbed him down. You're causing brain damage, and you're not even coming close to fixing a simple solution cause, what they have. Aww. Sorry for being so blunt, but I know a lot of you, when you watch it, you're going, that's my kid.
Yeah, no, that's true. My kids, they're finally at an age where they appreciate the diet. I have 2 teenage daughters, 14 and almost 16, but people always say, oh, you've got kids that age. And I always am happy to say they're amazing. I love them, and we all love our kids, but I like being with them, actually. They're sweet and thoughtful, and we have fun together every day. And now they notice other kids. They always used to feel a little bit jealous about the Doritos and the, excess pudding cups that kids would put together. But, and not to say that I don't let them have fun, because it got weird when they didn't know the names of candy bars, or, they were definitely starting to be oddballs. So they know what things are, don't get me wrong, but they even see the difference between themselves and their friends, which made me feel so much better about how I deprived them, apparently.
It's just a culture, what we're brought up with. So if you were brought up without sugar, a lot of people are considered weird that don't eat junk food. I could care less. I mean, right. What happens is, if this is another important point, because a lot of people, they go, well, I'm skinny, or he's skinny or she's skinny, so that person is fine, they're healthy. No, you can have a fast metabolism and have all sorts of sugar problems and be an absolute mess.
Right.
have a lot of inflammation in your body and be cranky and brain fog and tired. Blood sugar makes you tired from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or your adrenals drop. And anyway, it don't always judge a person's health just by their physique, because sometimes thin people are not healthy at all, and they have these issues. So, all right. Well, I think we got all the questions, Lisa, and you will send the links to Fran, right?
Yep. I will, or I think I will. I think I told her I'll post them in the comments below this live, and you should be able to see them. I think a little picture of that, like a preview, will show up where they're at. But if you have any trouble downloading them, ask Fran or Dr. Jantz or myself, and I will get them to you immediately.
What's the name of your website?
nutritionuprising.com.
Okay, she's got a lot of good data on there. So we'll have that on. If someone wants to watch this video that hasn't seen it, we upload it. It will be on our Alternative Healthcare Center Facebook. And then Fran usually waits a little while, and then she'll upload this video up onto YouTube. You can watch that. So Lisa, you were a great guest. It was. We'll have you on again. I'm glad you're on the team. This will be great. She's got some great things laid out on the diet already that's all written up. So we're going to be using them in the clinic a lot.
Thank you. And thanks for taking such good care of me and my family these 20 years. I appreciate your entire staff and all the doctors. So thank you.
No, thank you. We got a great staff.
Yes, you do.
We're going to end off. We went over time again, but I don't think anybody cares. Okay, Lisa, so I'm going to end off. Thank you for watching.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.